Hello and welcome to Create Crochet with me, Rebecca. In today's video we are going to make this snowflake. So to do this I'm using Red Heart White Sparkle. It's got an iridescent plastic chain running all the way through it. So let's get started. First thing that you need to do is create your slip knot. So you cross your yarn over and push through the hole, and that's your slip knot. Insert your hook, hold on to the knot that you've just created and pull gently. Now you want to create enough room that the yarn slips up and down your hook quite freely, and you want to chain 4. So that's 1, 2, 3 and 4. And that's your chain. This chain is going to be completely hidden by the next round, and we're going to be working rounds. So slip stitch into the first chain. I'm only catching the first loop as opposed to the top 2 loops just for ease. Bring through 1 and bring through 2. Now find the center of that circle. If you if you do the next round into one of these chains, it's going to make your work lopsided. So find the center, and into that center we're going to double crochet 10 times. That's double crochet UK turn, single crochet US turn. So to single crochet, you go into this hole here, into the center of your ring, yarn over, bring it through, yarn over and bring it through the 2 loops. And as you work into this center hole here in the middle of your ring, it will open it out and you'll be able to see it a little bit clearer. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. And ignore this loop. We will be stitching that, or you can stitch that in at a later date. So to complete the round we need to slip stitch to this stitch here, whether you call it a single crochet in the US or a double crochet in the UK. So you're going to go through both of those loops, that one, and slip stitch. This is where from now on the pattern gets repetitive, and you're going to be making 5 loops like that all the way around of chain 7. So go ahead and chain 7 straight away. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Now you're going to miss 1 stitch and go to the next stitch. So not this one here, but this one here. And you're going to slip stitch, catching both loops. You want this work to be secure, so catch both loops and slip stitch. So you're going to do that a further 4 more times. I'll do the next one with you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and again miss the next stitch and go through the 2 loops of the stitch after that. So 1, 2, into the second, yarn over, bring through once and bring through twice, and it should start to look like that. So you go ahead and make the other 3, and I'll join you once that's been done. So I'm about to slip stitch. I've just done my last 7th chain, and I now need to slip stitch to the bottom of this chain because I'm going to miss this stitch here and go into the bottom of this chain here. So I'll bring my yarn through, and that is all 5 of your 7 chains, like so. Again, these chains are going to be hidden with the next round. So the next round, it's going to be again repetitive, and it's exactly the same in each one of these. And the pattern is single crochet or double crochet, whichever term you use, into the 7 chain space, chain 3, and then double crochet, and then we go back on ourselves. So we don't slip stitch into here, we just double crochet straight into here for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 1 double crochet into the 7 chain space. 1. So that is now what your work should look like. By doing the double crochet along the 7 chain, it thickens it up a little bit and leaves it a bit more sturdy. Now we're going to come back into this 3 chain space. It's important that you work into here and not into the 7 chain space. So to get our work and our yarn into the 3 chain space, we slip stitch into it. Now it can get a little bit fiddly, and if you want to practice it, go for it. So making sure that I go into this 3 chain space, I'm going to slip stitch, like so. Now I'm going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now what you need to do is slip stitch along each chain. Now I've got a visual reference for you. This is a blown up version of what a chain is made up of. Okay, so into each one of these chains you need to pick up 2 loops. So each chain is made up of 3 pieces of yarn: the top, the middle, and the bottom. And when you slip stitch along this chain, it's these 2 loops you need to pick up. It's really important that you do pick up 2, because if you pick up 1, it will stretch the chain, whereas if you pick up 2, it won't stretch it, and your work will become really even and nice. So again, the chain is made up, each chain is made up of 3 pieces of yarn: the top, the middle, and the bottom. And it's the top 2, and it should look like that on your hook. Even though there's 2 loops on your hook, it counts as 1. Okay, so let's do that together. Put my hook back through the loop. You need to miss the first chain. So you miss this one here, the first chain from your hook, and you go into the second chain, and you need to come down for the count of 4, because we're missing that first one. Okay? One, 2, 3, and the 4th one should be right at the bottom of that chain, and it just thickens it up makes it more sturdy, and then slip stitch into the 3 chain space. Now we're going to be crocheting along the chains all the way around. Into each 3 chain there's 3 points, so you will get used to it, but it is worth practicing. So that was a 5 chain, and we slip stitched 4 times. The next one is you're going to do 7 chains. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, because we want this point to be longer than this point. And again, you're going to come all the way down. Apart from the first chain from the hook, you're going to come all the way down and slip stitch into each chain. Now to count your chain, I'll get this one back. To count your chains, you count the loops at the top. So this part here, that will be 1, 2, 3 and so on. So although this yarn is quite small and the stitches are quite small, with your work you'll be able to see. If you've chained and you can only see 1 loop here, make sure you definitely go through 2 loops. So missing the first chain from the hook, we're going to come down for 6 slip stitches, and this is the same on every single point. So you're going to be doing this part of the pattern 5 times in total, because you've got 5 points to create. So coming down, missing the first one from the hook, you come down to the second one, catching 2 loops which count as 1, and slip stitch all the way down. It is fiddly and it is a bit of a faff, but trust me, it's really, really worth spending the time and effort knowing how to do this. If you need to just make 1 long chain separately to this work, then go for it, just to practice it, because these snowflakes are really, really beautiful once they're made. So making sure I catch both loops all the way down, and then when I get to the bottom, making sure you do get the last one. And once you've got to the bottom, oops, I've done that a bit tight, slip stitch into the 3 chain space. Like so. And then the last point you're going to do exactly the same as the first one that you did. So chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, miss the first chain from the hook and come down for 4, making sure that you get this very, very first chain. Okay, so missing the first one, go 1, 2, 3, and catching this last one, for 4, and then slip stitch again into the 3 chain space, which by now is looking quite full, so you must find it. This one here, and slip stitch. You will find that you'll need to twist your work every which way to make sure that you get this right. And that is what the point looks like. So we're going to carry on coming down this way, and we've already done excuse me, 1 single crochet US term or 1 double crochet UK term. So we only need to do 4 now, because we did 5 down this side. We need to do 5 in total down this side to make things even. So we need to do 4 along this edge here. So to get into the 7 chain space, slip stitch. And that brings our yarn into this space. So 4 stitches into here is, I'm going to do that one again, I'm not happy with that. If you are ever unhappy with your work, don't be afraid to admit it, do it again. So I'm going to slip stitch into the 7 chain space, and then do 4 double crochets for 1, 2, 3, and 4. And your snowflake is starting to take shape. You may need to fiddle with it just to make sure everything's even, that's fine. And so what you've just created is this section here. So go ahead and do the rest of the 4 points, and I will join you back round here. So here we are, back round, and I'm about to slip stitch into my 7 chain space and do my last 4 stitches. So I'm going to slip stitch, and then I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now to finish the whole thing, you find your very first chain that you made of this, your very first double crochet or single crochet that you made, and slip stitch into this. So just slip stitch. Leave about that much and pull your hook through. With this piece of yarn, pull tightly, and that creates a knot. And that, apart from weaving in your ends, is your snowflake done. Now it will, depending on the yarn that you use, mine will need an iron and probably starch or similar product to stiffen it out a little bit. But that is the snowflake complete. So now we need to weave in the ends. I was just getting my needle. This is a yarn needle. It's quite thick. It's thicker than your normal sewing needle. And this is the eye here, and that's where you feed your yarn into. So I'm going to do this end here. Now this is probably way too long, so I'm going to snip this down a little bit. So I have left this much yarn left. Put the yarn through the eye, like so, and now we're going to weave in this end into our work. So you go through the stitches, making sure that you can't see the needle this side or that side. If you can see the needle, it means you will see this end in your work, and you've just done all that work and created a beautiful snowflake, and it will look a bit daft. So you get it through there. Now pull it quite firmly, and where it pops out you snip. Now you pull it quite firmly to pucker the work, because when you snip, now be careful not to snip your actual work, only snip the extra yarn. When you pull it, you won't be able to see any of the ends. And we'll do this one as well. So yarn into the eye of the needle. I know some people use plastic needles. That's fine. It's whatever you prefer to use. Me, I prefer metal. They're a little bit sharper pointed, so it can fray your yarn. I'm just going to trim that off a bit because that has frayed at the top. If your yarn's frayed at the top, it does make it a little bit more difficult to get it through that eye. If you lick it, it's fine. Through there. And again, because this is the starting piece here, I'm going to go round here, so I'm not stretching the end through any excuse me, through any of these gaps here. I'm taking this piece of yarn through the work where it comes from. Again, this piece is going to be really quite long and we're going to have to trim it. So I'm going to go through, making sure I can't see the needle either side. You may have to tug, that's fine. So that should do it. So again, pull it so it puckers the work, snipping very close to the stitches, but not actually the stitches, and then squidge out your work again. So go ahead and iron it. If your work doesn't look like this, it's fine. Each snowflake is individual, and you don't get two snowflakes the same, so it's fine. Happy crocheting!